Okay, I'm going to go ahead and discuss some of the paraphilias. I'm going to use our book, When Teachers, Clergy, and Caretakers Sexually Abuse Children and Adolescents, written by myself and also Dr. Barbara Mera, and published, of course, by Carolina Academic Press. But what I want to do is just to take a few minutes here and discuss some of these paraphilias. Again, you'll see that as far as being a mental disorder, what I would recommend is that you look at the criteria in the DSM-5, because there's a difference between between a paraphilia being classified as a mental disorder and a paraphilia being classified as a crime. There will be overlap, of course, but there may be situations where someone could be diagnosed with a paraphilia, although they're not committing any crimes. And there's a variety of other situations where we would clearly want to look at the legal codes and the context of the situation. But let me go ahead and give some examples. Fra Tourism is rubbing one's genitals against people without their consent for sexual arousal purposes. And this is something we may see in crowds or on subway trains, where someone may engage in this behavior where they rub up against someone. This is more difficult to determine as being a sexual assault in crowded places. Obviously, where there's not many people around, you can clearly see that it's a sexual assault. And the situation here, of course, is that that it is a sexual assault, but the person seems to, in addition, the person gets sexual arousal and maybe even has an orgasm when rubbing against other unsuspecting, non-consenting people. Sadism involves becoming sexually aroused by sexual fantasies or behaviors that humiliate, physically harm, or dominate another. And the example we have in our book is that one woman became sexually aroused when she tied up her boyfriend and spanked him with his belt. She would slap his penis while masturbating herself to orgasm and call him derogatory names while engaging in this behavior. This would not be considered a mental disorder if both parties were consenting adults who felt fine about the behavior. The other side of the coin there of sadism is masochism, where the person becomes sexually aroused by sexual fantasies or behavior of being physically harmed, humiliated, or dominated by another. In the previous example, the woman's male friend would be considered the masochist. Now, obviously, with consenting adults, role-playing sadism and masochism is very different from, and when they feel fine about it and it's part of their role-playing and scripts, is very different from people who engage in this behavior and it causes them much distress and other mental health issues, which is also very different from someone who is coerced into this type of behavior. And then it becomes, of course, illegal behavior and assault. Let me give you an example. I remember where a person working in a large organization, a manager of a organization, middle-aged male, once took a adult female who worked at his office, grabbed her and placed her across his knees and spanked her in front of other people because it was her birthday. And she later filed had charges filed against him and a lawsuit. And I would ask you to determine, how would you classify that type of behavior? A fetish consists of having sexual fantasies or engaging in sexual behavior revolving around an object such as a shoe or underwear. The example we use in our book was a man who liked to suck high heel pumps until he had an orgasm, and he would also fantasize about different shoes and masturbate while looking at shoe catalogs. And it could also involve, of course, body parts, where maybe in this case he also had a foot fetish and would look at for example, catalogs of shoes with feet being exposed. Again, this would not necessarily be illegal. It would not be illegal, what I just mentioned, obviously. But there have been cases, for example, we had a case where an adolescent would break into houses and steal all the shoes from the homes and then use them to masturbate with. So here he had a shoe fetish. But the problem that got him in trouble with the law wasn't that he liked to masturbate with shoes, but that he engaged in burglary to obtain his shoes to gratify his sexual urges. Voyeurism is having sexual fantasies or engaging in behavior for sexual arousal by watching unsuspecting people engaged in sexual interactions or undressing. And in the previous video, I gave an example of a man looking through the curtains of his neighbor, watching his neighbor undress. Often when this occurs, the voyeurist also engages in masturbatory behavior. Exhibitionism is displaying one's genitals to others for sexual arousal purposes without their consent. Sometimes, for example, this sometimes is called in popular cultural terms, flashing, if you will. For example, a man would expose his erect penis through the bottom of his gym shorts to unsuspecting teenagers that would walk by the park bench where he was sitting. So here you have several crimes being committed. Pedophilia is characterized by having sexual fantasies about children or engaging in sexual behavior with children. And again, we could have an entire course on pedophilia, and there's a lot written about. Obviously, pedophilia, the acting out of pedophilia clearly is illegal behavior. And then there are many, many, many other paraphilias that involve all kinds of scenarios. I just read about one where a man put his penis on an ant pile and for sexual gratification, and that turned him on, but also it caused him a lot of medical issues, and he had to be treated for that scenario in a emergency room. Was that illegal? It wouldn't be if unsuspecting people were not aware and watching it happen, because then you'd have also exhibitionism. So it's important to look at the context of the situation, also the legal codes. Thank you.